What if I told you that your brain has been lying to you your entire life? Not in a malicious way, not by mistake, but because lying to you is exactly what it is supposed to do. Because the moment you start truly thinking when you question, analyze, and doubt, your own brain interprets it as a threat. And what it does next is something no self-help book will ever tell you. There is something you have carried with you since the day you were born, something you inherited without asking for it, without signing for it, without anyone consulting you. And I'm not talking about the color of your eyes or the shape of your nose. I'm talking about a mechanism so ancient, so deep, so perfectly designed that it works silently 24 hours a day. A mechanism that decides for you when to think and when not to, when to question and when to obey, when to be yourself and when to dissolve into the group without even noticing. And the most unsettling part of all this is not that this mechanism exists. The most unsettling part is that it works best the less you know about it. Today we're going to talk about something almost nobody likes to hear. Something science has been studying for decades, but society prefers to ignore because the truth behind it is too uncomfortable. We're going to talk about stupidity, not as an insult, not as a moral judgment, but as what it really is, a biological, evolutionary, and social phenomenon that the world not only tolerates, but actively needs in order to survive. And when you finish watching this video, you will never see the people around you the same way again, nor institutions, nor yourself. The human brain consumes approximately 20% of the body's total energy. 20%. For an organ that represents barely 2% of your total mass. That is an obscene amount of resources. And nature, which has spent millions of years perfecting the art of wasting nothing, knows this perfectly well. That's why the brain developed something extraordinarily efficient. The ability to shut down thinking when it is not strictly necessary. Think about it for a moment. Every time you repeat a routine, every time you follow a rule without questioning it, every time you accept an idea because it comes from someone with authority, your brain is saving energy. It is operating in automatic mode, and that automatic mode has a name in neuroscience. System 1 thinking. Fast, intuitive, efficient, and deeply. Structurally, irrational. Critical thinking, the kind that analyzes, compares, doubts, belongs to System 2. Slow, costly, exhausting, and the brain avoids it whenever it can. Not because you are lazy, not because you are inferior, but because from a biological standpoint, thinking too much is a luxury that for hundreds of thousands of years we simply could not afford. Here comes the part nobody explains to you in school. For most of our species' history, survival did not depend on who thought best. It depended on who integrated best, on who followed the group more quickly and with less resistance. The individual who questioned the leader's decisions in the middle of the savannah, while a pack of predators approached on the horizon, did not live long enough to pass on their genes. The one who obeyed, who imitated, who blended into the collective without friction, that one survived, that one reproduced, that one is you. Evolution does not favor the most intelligent in the abstract. It favors the most adapted to the environment. And for most of the time, we have existed as a species on this planet. The environment rewarded conformity over independent thinking. But wait, because this is where things get truly dark. It wasn't just nature that favored this mechanism. Systems of power have been refining it for centuries. And when I say systems of power, I'm not referring to villains in black capes meeting in secret rooms. I'm referring to something much more everyday, much more invisible, and precisely for that reason, much more effective. Empires, religions, governments, large corporations, they all share one fundamental need. They need people who obey more than they think. They need rules to be followed without too many questions. They need messages to be believed without too much analysis. Because a citizen who questions every rule is hard to govern. A consumer who analyzes every product is hard to manipulate. An employee who examines every decision is hard to control. Hannah Arendt, one of the most lucid thinkers of the 20th century, observed something that left her stunned while following the Nuremberg trials. The people who had participated in one of the most monstrous crimes in history were not monsters. They were bureaucrats. They were ordinary people. People who had stopped thinking. People who had reduced their moral existence to a single question: what does the system require of me? And whatever the answer was, they fulfilled it without friction, without doubt, without inner conflict. Arendt called this the banality of evil, but it could be called something else: the triumph of non-thinking. Now, you might be thinking this is all history, that it belongs to another time, that today we are freer, more critical, more aware. And here is the system's greatest trick. Gustave Le Bon, a French psychologist who studied crowds in the late 19th century, discovered something disturbing. When human beings merge into a group, their individual critical capacity plummets. The group does not think, the group feels, the group reacts, and that collective reaction is extraordinarily easy to steer if you know how to do it. You don't need arguments. You don't need data. You need simple emotions, direct messages, and a clear enemy. Sound familiar? Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming before anyone else. He spoke about herd mentality, how society tends to punish those who stand out too much, those who think too differently, those who make others uncomfortable with their questions. And he pointed out something brutal. In human groups, conformist mediocrity is not only tolerated, it is rewarded. Because those who adapt without friction are useful to everyone. Those who question are a nuisance. And here appears something psychologists have been documenting for decades, something you may have heard of: the Dunning-Kruger effect. Two researchers discovered that there is an inverse relationship between what someone knows about a topic and the confidence with which they speak about it. Those who know little doubt little. Those who know a lot doubt constantly. And in a society that rewards confidence and punishes doubt, guess who ends up with more influence? The self-assured ignorant rise. The nuanced, thoughtful, wise stay at home. This is not an abstract theory. It's what you see every day if you pay attention. It's the politician who speaks with overwhelming certainty about topics they don't understand and gathers crowds. It's the influencer who oversimplifies everything and keeps growing. It's the person in your environment who never doubts anything and therefore seems to have everything under control. Genuine intelligence, the kind that recognizes its own ignorance, that lives in complexity, is uncomfortable. It is slow. It is, socially speaking, not very profitable. And then comes the question that should keep you awake tonight. If evolution favors not thinking, if systems of power benefit from non-thinking, if groups punish those who question and reward those who conform without resistance, if even your own brain constantly seeks shortcuts to avoid the effort of reasoning, then who is really deciding what you think? Because it's not about whether you are smart or not. It's about whether you are willing to do something that is biologically costly, socially risky, and evolutionarily unusual. To truly think, to question what you take for granted, to make yourself uncomfortable with your own beliefs, to hold doubt without needing to resolve it immediately. That is the opposite of what the world has been training you to do for centuries. And here is the only possible way out. You cannot change how biology works. You cannot dismantle centuries of social engineering. You cannot make groups suddenly embrace critical thinking as a virtue. But you can do one thing, just one, and it is both the hardest and the most valuable. Refuse to think on autopilot. Not always, not in every decision of every day, but in the ones that matter, the ones that define who you are, the ones that determine where your life is going. Ask yourself where every idea you hold comes from. Question every certainty that feels too comfortable. Doubt, especially what everyone around you takes as obvious. Because stupidity is not a design flaw. It is the default state. And the only way out of that default state is not to be smarter. It is to be more awake. If you made it this far, you're already trying. And in a world designed so that you don't, that is more valuable than you can imagine. If you made it to the end, comment, "I am not ignorant," and I will personally reply. And if it resonated with you, subscribe to be part of it and leave a like if you enjoyed it. See you next time.